Welcome back. I've got a contest video for Horror Fan Man, who is an interesting UK YouTuber that's very knowledgeable about horror films. Great collection. I enjoy his videos quite a bit. I will certainly post a link in the description box to his channel. If you haven't checked him out, I would highly encourage you to do so. He had an interesting question, and that is, if you were going to have a marathon night, what movies would you pick from 5 different decades? And it got much more interesting for me today when I watched my buddy Seth's Celluloid Terror. He kind of beat me to the punch. 2 out of his 5 choices were my choices. I don't know what the odds of that are, but it just goes to show that Celluloid Terror and myself tend to like the same things. But so I had to change up a little bit so I don't look like I'm copying Seth here. So let's get started. First up, 1970. I had originally picked Devil's Reign, but I'm going to go with this Larry Cohen goodness, It's Alive, 1978. I saw this at the drive-in, and it freaked me out. I mean, you got a killer baby that eats his way out of his mother's womb is just too much. It's just fantastic cheese, and it's a great way to start off a marathon, in my opinion, if you're going to start with the 70s. These picks may not be the best films you could pick, but what I'm trying to do in a marathon scenario is pick things that are short and sweet and just a lot of fun. You know, turn off your brain and just go with it. I didn't go too much with depth or anything like that. I was looking for just very relatively short films that are highly entertaining, kind of what the fuck type stuff. So first up, It's Alive, 1978. Next up, we're going to go with Burial Ground, which just barely got into the 1980s, 1981. This is a what the fuck movie, if I've ever seen one, by Andrea Bianchi. It's a non-stop zombie fest of gore and Italian goodness that you're not going to fall asleep, you know, watching this movie. I mean, it's just a great, fun, entertaining, quick 90 minutes of goodness, zombie goodness. It's one of my favorite films, and this 88 films release is excellent. If you don't have this, I would highly recommend picking it up. It's got a little booklet by Colin Waddle. All right, now the 90s was the toughest one. And by the way, my original 1980s pick was The Blob. So I had to change that one up a little bit. 90s to me is the weakest of the decades as far as horror, but I did find one that I can recommend, and that would be 92's Candyman. Clive Barker's excellent social commentary horror film set in Chicago. It's very interesting and an engaging horror film. It's not a masterpiece by any stretch, but it's certainly one that I think you can enjoy. So that's 1992's Candyman. Now moving into the 2000s, I'm going to go with Behind the Mask, The Rise of Leslie Vernon, which is it's a slasher film, docudrama, really a comedy almost. I think it's an underrated classic. Behind the Mask, Leslie Vernon. And then finally, last but not least, we're going to end with some modern day horror, and that is I think the Turkish classic horror film from I think it's 2015. IFC release of Baskin. Love this film. It really reminds me of the kind of nightmarish vision of Clive Barker's original Hellraiser. I love the film, and I think it's a great way to kind of end a midnight marathon, all-night 5-movie marathon with a really creepy film. You know, cut the lights out, you're all by yourself, wrap up your marathon with Baskin would be my recommendation. So there you go. Those are my 5 recommendations from 5 different decades, and I appreciate Horror Fan Man running this contest. Thank you very much.